What is going on, Nuggets Nation NBA fans? My name is Tom Leuthner. Welcome back to Nuggets Today, presented by Fan Archer. I hope you guys had a fantastic weekend. We're coming off an episode of another Nuggets W. Like I said, couldn't get the Pacers episode out yesterday after the game, so it is today. I know it's a day late, but I wanted to get an episode out for it. There's a couple things to cover. The first thing I want to get into is the fact that CT, if you go follow him on Twitter, great Nuggets mind, breaks down film. He made a good point. Jokic's numbers aren't as high as all these other MVP candidates. One, because he doesn't score. He doesn't look to score every single game. You see that when he tries to score, he can, but he also experiments, right? You're playing with a new team. That's the whole thing. Is just there's so many new guys on the roster that you watch what he's doing, and he's just experimenting to see who he could get open, where he could get them open, when somebody's cutting. And I think that's a massive factor in Denver winning more games this year, not only right now, but just this year in general. He's a triple-double machine again, 32, 14, and 14 last night. He's also, I think he has the most triple-doubles with 70% field goal percentage. It's insane. But like I said, I think it's interesting that he's toying around and sort of picking teams apart and seeing who can be where when they can get there. I think that's a massive part for Denver to go ahead and, in my opinion, attempt to win a championship this year. When Cam Johnson figures it out, I think that it's going to be even more of a factor because right now teams can sort of leave him from the three-point line. He's not insanely effective. But when he is, we already know that Jokic can work with guys like that. We saw with MPJ. He was great, but like I said, I think that the fact that he's picking teams apart, even last night, right? You beat a Pacers team who wasn't very good, and I thought that it should have been a more dominant victory, but at the same time, I'm fine with a win. A win right now is a win. You're going into, I think, one or two more easy games, and you have a hard schedule ahead, so I'm fine with a win. But even the starting five yesterday, he didn't have a great starting five. I mean, they started Pickett at the point guard. You have CB, who had an game. Cam Johnson played pretty well. Payne Watson started. He was great, and so he's somebody I'm going to get to next episode. Bruce Brown came in off the bench. The bench played better than the starters outside of Jokic, maybe Cam and P. Watt, but Jokic can make any starting five work because he knows where people are going to be, and his trust in his teammates is the biggest thing. And I said this last year, when you're in a playoff run and you need a clutch shot and you're giving it to Russell Westbrook, which is something nobody would ever do, it proves that you're above other players, right? Not just mentally, but when it comes to how you're going to play and how you're going to trust your teammates, it's great. But like I said, I think it's interesting how he really experiments and plays certain ways against certain teams and really picks teams apart. The next thing I want to hop into is, like I was just saying, his starting five, right? Like, you go into yesterday's game and AG and Jamal both sat. I know it was like a little bit of like injury or load management. Jamal's been dealing with a calf issue, I believe. And instead of putting in Bruce Brown, who's your backup point guard right now, or a guy like Tim Hardaway, or a guy like Julian Strawther, they put in P. Watt, who I think deserves to be there. I think that he's, this is the offensive game that we've seen from him, and like I said, I'll get into that in a second. And you put in Jalen Pickett. Now, I don't like Jalen Pickett. I think that we all know that. I know that everybody said, oh, he's good. He's a great backup point guard. He's going to be great for this Denver team. He does not do. If you were going to put him on a roster and play him, you're sort of guaranteed to lose. There's no reason to. If I'm Denver, I know the eligibility thing is the big thing. I would have sent him down and brought up Curtis Jones in a heartbeat. I think that Curtis Jones contributes more. He's a knockdown shooter. His playmaking in summer league and preseason looked great. That's what I would have done. But we're in the point where Jalen Pickett's playing. Now, he played 18 minutes. He went 1 for 4 from the field. He had 2 points, 1 rebound, no assists, 1 turnover, and 2 fouls. And while he was on the court, he was minus 13 in the box score. This is a player who is atrocious, in my opinion, and he does not deserve to touch the court. Regardless of what happens, I think if an injury happens, go sign somebody else. Or call up Curtis Jones or call up Spencer Jones. Spencer Jones, another guy, played very well off the bench yesterday, and I really like him. I do think that with that last roster spot open, either Denver goes to make a trade or they just bring in Spencer Jones the entire year. But, yeah, Pickett's not good. But Payne Watson, on the other hand, 16, 7, and 1. I think he had 3 steals as well. 3 steals, 1 turnover, 3 fouls. He was +1 in the box score. he's good. And my thing with him is just you need to see him do better, not just because we want him to do better, but more just because he needs an extension. I would love him to stay on Denver, but if he's not going to produce offensively consistently, then you don't really need to extend him because you could probably find somebody better on offense, but then it comes down to the defense. Same kind of conversation with the Cam Johnson and MPJ trade, where Cam is just way better on offense, MPJ is worse on defense. Or, sorry, other way around. MPJ is better on offense, at least this year right now, and Cam is way better at defense, so it sort of cancels it out. If Payne Watson can just become an offensive player consistently and continue to be the defensive presence he is, Denver's in the best situation possible because you could lock him down for a couple of years. And the good thing is with how inconsistent he's been, I don't know if a lot of teams throw him a lot of money unless it's a real contender. So I thought he looked great. Jalen Pickett looked awful in the starting five, and Denver still was able to pull out the win, thank God. And I think that has something to do with their defense. And I really credit Jared Dudley on what he's been able to do. He is leading this Denver team defensively, and that's the one thing Adelman said right out the gates is that his defensive-minded coach is going to be Jared Dudley. Why? Because he's an offensive-minded coach. He's been an offensive-minded coach with this team for so long now, especially under Mike Malone, that he needs somebody to help him explore defensively, and I think Jared Dudley's doing that. The Nuggets are the 5th defensive team right now in defensive rating. They're playing great. The whole thing that's funny to me is that everybody, Jokic is a defensive liability and you'll never win with him, being a defender, whatever. Like, he's not this presence in the paint where he's going to block shots, but he is also one of the best pick and roll defending bigs we've seen in a very long time, where if you're trying to run a pick and roll on him, it's going to get stolen. Like, that's just how he is. So I love what Jared Dudley's doing defensively. I like the fact that David Adelman is able to learn under Jared Dudley about his defensive schemes. I think that Denver could continue to dominate. Now, last thing I want to talk about is just the team they beat, Pacers. When it comes to defense and hustle, this team has it all, the Pacers. They made it a closer game than I would have liked to see. 117 to 100 was the final score. A lot of their players shot bad. You have Nembhard shot 7 for 20. Siakam shot 5 for 16. But shout out to Aaron Nesmith. Aaron Nesmith is a problem, man. He went 7 for 10, 25 points, 1 rebound. He had 4 steals. Jokic turned the ball over 8 times. This team hustles. They're just in a very weird spot because of the Halliburton injury. And I am interested to see if they do move on from Siakam and try to trade him somewhere else just to sort of rebuild, because they're mid-rebuild right now, but they are a good team. They played a lot of backup bigs, actually. They played Jeremiah Robinson, Earl, Tony Bradley, and Jay Huff off the bench. They all got very good minutes. Jay Huff got 15, Bradley got 16, Jeremiah Robinson, Earl had 19, Isaiah Jackson had 19 starting, and you had Siakam playing 33. So they're running a lot of bigs right now, and you could tell that they're sort of lacking that, point guard dominant team that they had last year, and obviously Miles Turner. But it also was nice to see Monte Morris come back out and play against the Denver Nuggets, a guy that I loved, somebody I wanted back on the Nuggets so bad. So it was nice to see him actually get some playing time and be on a roster right now. But that is all I got for you guys today, Nuggets Nation. Like I said, make sure to hit that like and subscribe button. If you guys want me to cover anything, let me know down below, and I'll catch you guys next episode.